Hello, everybody. All right, so it's Friday morning. I hope everybody's having a nice day. I want to cover a few things with you. All right, first, the process here that I outlined in the last announcement, and I just laid it out in text for you as well, in case you don't watch this video. I want you to understand my thought process and how we're putting this class together. Okay, so this is Anatomy and Physiology 142. This is the second part of a big picture. Okay, so I'm assuming that you understand everything from 141. I'm assuming that you have, are able to reference back to 141, that you have the textbook and such. If you don't have the textbook, that's okay. I gave you a link for the current free version from the university. Okay, but if you have the older one, that's fine too. It's most of the time, pretty much the same thing. Okay, there's just very small variations in textbooks, but generally it's the same. Okay, all right. So we're outlining the concepts here. What are we trying to accomplish? Well, we're trying to support the lecture. So if you're taking the lecture class, or if you have taken the lecture class, I want you to reinforce that material. The lecture is primarily going to teach you about the physiology. It's going to give you the very into deep details, okay? But it doesn't always pay as much attention to identifying the structures and such. Some lectures might pull it together differently, but generally, the 142 lab, if it were in person, you'd be sitting in the lab and you'd be looking at models, okay? The plastic models that you see in the lab, and you're going to look through them. You're going to be able to identify where they're located and take them off the model, the bigger model, and you're going to identify the points on that model. So the best way to do that in a virtual class is to make a PDF. It's just to fill in the blank. All you're going to do is fill in the blanks, save and submit. If you have to combine them, that's fine. I just quick Google search. How do you combine it? You can do it very easily on a Mac. If you can't do it, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't stress it. Right? Just send me what you did. I trust that you filled them all in. Okay. Because if you don't, you're just not going to do very well. So it's kind of on you. So the anatomy, structure. What is structure? It's just what we look like or how something is formed. Okay. Basically, the takeaway, the notes you write on this is structure yields function. Okay, so what it looks like affects how it performs. Physiology is the study of function. Okay, so how does that structure perform? What does it do? The details of it. Okay, and then the discussion questions. Okay, so that's about bringing the two together. How does the anatomy, the structure, affect the physiology, the function in an organism for that system? Cardiovascular system, endocrine system, whatever, okay? So if first thing you do is open up your textbook, read the summary page for the chapter, then go back to the beginning, make your way through each section with the anatomy assignment opened. And then as it's going through the sections, there's going to be pictures there. It might not be the exact picture, but it's pretty close. It's the same organ. It's the same system. So it's not going to be that different. And if you should be able to tell. It's not that difficult. Okay. So you open it up. As you're reading through it, it tells you this is the pancreas. Okay. This is the thymus. This is the hypothyroid. This is the thyroid, parathyroid, etc. Okay. And what does it do? Okay. So as you're making these notes, you're filling in the blank on the PDF that's sitting right next to you. Okay. Very easily. Right. And then once you finish with that, you've made your way through the chapter, you've read the summary, and you've done the anatomy. So now you understand the structure. So now it's time to move on to the function. And now you go to the physiology module, and that is a virtual module. If it was in a lab in class, you do it in person. But in this case, it's online. So you're going to go through all those tabs. Now, mind you, if this was a real in-person class, that would take you 3 hours to do that. All right. And then you'd still have to write the lab report at the end. And you'd still have to come into the lab and go through the models to make sure that you understand where everything is located. So don't think that it's too much work, because it's the same exact amount of work. It's just you're doing it virtually. All right. So you finished that physiology assignment, you did the lab report. You turn the lab report in for the grade. You don't turn anything else in. Okay. Then you answer the discussion questions. Now, if this was in person, the discussion questions would be part of the package, right? And you'd have to answer them anyway. So they're just a separate assignment now. Okay, can you very easily make it all one assignment, but there's 3 assignments just because it's easier to put it into LaLima that way. You answer the discussion questions. So in order to answer a question regarding a subject like this, you have to know what's normal in order to identify what's not normal, or where the abnormality is, or what the disease is, or what the malfunction is. Whatever something is wrong with the physiology, you have to first know what is not wrong or what's normal. Okay, that's why we have norms. That's why we look at it like this. So the anatomy plus the physiology combined, and then answer the discussion questions, we now understand how the anatomy and physiology as a system, the cardiovascular system or the endocrine system, how they work inside the human body. Okay, now we move on to the next section. It's blood, and then cardiovascular, and so the heart, and then the vessels, and then eventually the respiratory system. So how the blood works in its own. Blood is its own system, or blood is its own, it's connective tissue. It's a liquid connective tissue. And then the heart is its own structure. It has its own details, and it has its own vessels. And then there's the arteries and veins. Okay, all of those create an additional microsystem. Combined, it's the cardiovascular system. Cardio, heart; vascular, the vessels. Okay, understanding how vessels work, the anatomy of the artery, the anatomy of the vein, how they work in a systemic situation, what the arteries in your legs do and what the arteries in your neck do, and so on and so on. And so that's why it's broken down into each individual sections. When we put those together, that's the cardiovascular section. And then we add the pulmonary section in the next section, in the next chapter. Well, now we're talking about the pulmonary in its own, but you can also understand that it's the cardiopulmonary, right? So there's also, how does the cardio and the pulmonary system work together? Well, the pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins, very special. Identify those. Why are they different? They're the only ones that are different. They're the only ones that are opposite of all the others. They carry oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, opposite of the rest of them. So when we look at a model, we see a red vessel. It's an artery. We see a blue vessel. That's a vein. Okay, it's not that dramatic in the body, but for purposes of the anatomical models, that's the way it works. But in the case of the pulmonary system, they're opposite. So when we have a red artery is oxygenated blood, we have a blue vein is deoxygenated blood. Well, in the case of the pulmonary arteries and pulmonary vessels, it's the opposite. Okay, so that's an important question. You'll see that often. Once we bring all those together, finish up respiratory, and you've done all of this process for those, now we bring it all together. So now we do a project. So we take one person, fictitious person, if you like. If you know somebody like this, you could do that too. You say, I take one person. This is a case study. One person, multiple diseases. So as an example, if you are obese, you probably have diabetes. Okay, what is diabetes? It's an endocrine problem. Okay, you probably have a heart condition, hypertension, high blood pressure, various conditions you can have. That's a heart issue. Okay, maybe you have peripheral artery disease. That's a vascular system issue. And maybe you have emphysema or asthma. That's a pulmonary system. Okay, so if you're an obese, chronically obese or morbidly obese person, there's a good chance you have those also. But there can be other situations also that you could have. Make it up. But you're going to get that throughout your textbook in where it says clinical connections. So that's where you're learning these things. That's kind of the point. You need to think about it. Who do you know? What do you know? How does this work? Ask questions. That's how we learn. When you put all this together in a case study, and you might be building the case study as you're going through the chapters, that is the project. You can do the same exact thing for project 2, except it's going to be composed of the digestive system and so on. Okay, or the rest of the systems after we're finished here. The first section of the course is probably the most complex: the cardiovascular, cardiopulmonary, endocrine, etc. And one point that I forgot to mention. So when you're looking at the torso model on the endocrine system is not like the cardio, heart, right in the middle. Okay, vessels run everywhere. But the endocrine is a little different because you're going to need to look at, in the brain is where some of those system or those organs or glands live. All right, so you're looking in the brain section. Okay, if you're looking in the torso model, which is a plastic model in the lab, right, you'll see that, you know, there's the neck part of it, there's the heart part of it, there's the abdominal part of it, you know, where the pancreas is, where's the adrenal glands, they're on top of the kidneys. You're going to see the thymus. You can't see the thymus on that model, so you might have to look at a different model. The thymus is right here underneath the sternum, deep to the sternum, superficial to the heart. Where's the thyroid? Right here. Where's the parathyroid? Behind it, little dots on there. But you're not going to see that so easily on every model. So you're going to have to try dig a little harder. You're going to have to look at different pictures. If you just Google labeled anatomy models, you're probably going to find it. All right, they're all right there. Mind you, this is primarily an open book course. Everything is open book. The test is open book. It's just timed. So you just don't have forever to do it. So if you're preparing properly, it's not that hard. Out of 100 students every semester, I get 4 or 5 Fs, 4 or 5 Ds, 4 or 5 Cs, the rest get As. Just got to do the work. Just got to do the work and you'll get an A. It's pretty much how it goes. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you're a Maui student for any reason, please let me know that you may or may not need accommodations. If you need anything, just let me know. Just communicate. If you're going to email me, just please be clear in the subjects. I have a lot of students and I get a lot of emails. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, 24 hours usually, sometimes sooner, sometimes a little later. I'm not ignoring you. But please do not ask me to turn in assignments after the due date. The only thing you have to remember is to turn your stuff in on time. If there's an extenuating circumstance, I understand that. Okay. But please be adults and try to stick to the timeline. Okay. I'm flexible to a point, right? But I don't need 100 emails asking me to turn it in the next day or such. Okay. I'm here for you guys. If you need any help, I'll get on the phone with you. We'll talk through it. It's not that big of a deal. I just need you to make sure that you get your stuff done on time and that you put in the effort. All right. Please let me know if you need anything. Talk to y'all later. Have a good day.